Over the last week where I live, the temperature's dropped to -5 degrees. So I've really been enjoying snuggling under my blankets and sleeping in until the weather gets a bit warmer. But as I lay in bed this morning, it got me wondering, if I was a triangle, maybe a triangle more like this, and if my blanket was a rectangular shape, which was the same area as me, what is the maximum percentage of my body this blanket could cover? I'll get you to estimate first before I continue. So what do you think the maximum percentage of a triangle, a rectangle of the same size, can cover? My first few attempts were right-angled triangles because I could calculate these from the comfort of my own bed. So you can see here, this sheet has an area of 8 square units, and so does the triangle because it's half of this space, which is 16. And if I pop the sheet on this muscle man triangle in the best way possible, you can see here you've got a 2 by 2 square space, and that triangle will take up half of it. So there's 2 parts missing of the 8. So you've got 6 out of 8 parts of that triangle in there, which translates to 75%, which is pretty decent. And I got a bit worried. I'm like, oh, well, that's all well and good for muscle men, but what about tall, skinny people like me? And the good news is, even if you're tall and skinny like this person here, so this person is an 8 by 2 triangle, and they take up half that space, the rectangle, which has an area of 16, so the triangle has an area of 8 again. Same sheet, place it on top, and you can see the leftovers over here form half of the 4 by 1 rectangle that you can put around it. So again, the leftover blue part that's not covered by the sheet is 2, which means the remaining part, 6 out of 8 or 75%, is covered by that sheet. Now, this got interesting because I started experimenting with scalene triangles, with obtuse triangles, and all sorts of things. And what I found was the same thing kept happening over and over again. This time I've chosen obtuse triangles, and you can see that I've chosen different blankets. This one's a long skinny blanket, and this one's twice as thick. But still, if you look at these, they're both triangles with 8 square units. And up the top, you've got a 4 by 1 rectangle that's missing, or half of it at least, with the triangles. So that's an area of 2 missing there. And if you look out this side, you've got a 2 by 1 rectangle when you put those 2 parts together. And so that part's got an area of 1, that part's got an area of 1. And in total, 2 parts are missing here. So both 6 out of 8. Again, 75%. If you simplify 6/8, it becomes 3/4. If you look down here, I've now changed the dimensions of the triangle and made them 12 square units in the bottom left. And you can see that the same thing still happens. And now some of you might have recognized these are similar triangles. So you're saying, Andrew, of course it's going to work. Okay, fair point. So on the right-hand side, I've actually changed the dimensions of the triangle. So the proportions are slightly different, and the blanket's different again too. Now this one's a bit more tricky to calculate because you've got a height of a triangle here that is a bit unknown. So to work that out, if the height of the whole triangle is 3 units, then if I go here, it takes me 4 units to get across from the bottom to the top of that triangle, if we're going across this way. So if I go across only 2 units, I'll have gone halfway up that triangle, which means I'll have gone up 1.5. So we've got a triangle with a height of 1.5 and a base of 2, and put those 2 parts together to make a rectangle which has an area of 3. Now, if you take 3 from 12, you get 9, and 9 out of 12 simplifies to 3/4, which simplifies to 75%. You guessed it. And so I was really unsatisfied with this. I'm like, surely I can get more than 75% of this triangle covered. Without using complex geometry programs, I was able to get 85% of my triangle covered with a rectangle of the same size. Before you attempt to beat my score, I've got a few tips. If you're trying this activity, make sure you draw a grid and then try to choose a base and height for your triangles and rectangles that is an integer or a whole number to make your calculations easier. In fact, my best score was performed with a blanket that was just ever so slightly smaller than the triangle, just because it could become a whole number and make my calculations that little bit easier. So feel free to do that too. And let me know in the comments what your best score, the highest percentage you've covered of your triangle. Enjoy.